Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's the good time of day. We're back at it again today, and I'm just gonna hop right into it today. I like jumping straight into it. I don't like sitting down, long stroking you on trying to get to that point of what we're gonna be talking about. But before I actually get started, before we actually really get into this, I'm gonna ask you guys to if you enjoy what it is that we're doing and you enjoy the fact that I'm able to sit here with you and talk to you on a regular basis like this, support the channel, please. Uh, Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, do the whole YouTube thing, and please, please, please share it if you're actually enjoying the information that we're putting out today. And if you just want to buy me a coffee or whatnot, then the link is right there down there, and it has in that little scroll bar that's going down below. You can do it via PayPal or you can cash at me, either or, and buy me a coffee. In any event, let's get after this. I say many times we don't recognize the fact that sometimes we're being controlled and manipulated. That's something that happens on a regular basis, and it's something that we really need to get into in recognizing when it is that we're being controlled and when it is that we're being manipulated. We're being manipulated within the confines, and even the people who are giving us the information many times, they're being manipulated. And so we need to really consider just how far that goes, just how far it goes for the manipulation. And one of the tools that we can use in order to gain some aspect or some semblance of recognition of the fact that we're being manipulated, that people are telling us things and doing things to us that are not in our best interest, goes towards the fact that you have a situation. Well, let me put it this way. My old man used to tell me on a regular basis, he would say, give me 1 second here. I'm going to add my partner in crime here, Westradamus. Let me bring him on, and I'm going to bring him on while I go through my little monologue here in the beginning. Then we got Westradamus here. How you feeling today, sir?
Man, I am blessed and highly favored. Happy to be here. I just want to just apologize to you. My phone died on last show, so I wasn't able to be there for the outro, but I got all charged up and ready to go this time.
No worries at all. We were wrapping up anyway at the time, but as I'm just going to hop into this, and we can discuss it as soon as I get through with
Oh yeah. Go ahead, take time.
but I just want to just go into the fact that a lot of times we're manipulated on many different levels, and instead of us recognizing what that manipulation looks like, and my old man used to always say, he says, actions speak louder than words. So
Facts.
instead of always looking at what somebody says, right? And a lot of times, whenever we're looking at the media and they're talking about an administration, this administration or the previous administration, they'll tell us things, and they're not going by what the actual actions are. They're telling us the things that are being said, the things that they know that'll inflame us, the things that they know that'll get our blood boiling, and sometimes that is done by the party that they're trying to report on. So, and look, as an example, I'll bring in the previous administration. A lot of times, I believe that they were controlling and pulling the puppet strings, and they weren't realizing that the puppet strings were being pulled because they were telling them what they were going to talk about. And it was like, well, we want to talk about policies and policies that you're doing or not doing. And they would be like, no, 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 that's not what you're going to do. You're going to talk about what we tell you to talk about, punk. And a perfect example of that would be there's a guy with a push broom mustache that used to be in the administration, John Bolton. And he was a national security advisor for the previous administration from around 2018 to 2019. And while he was there, he wrote once he was done and he left, he wrote a book. And his book is The Room Where It Happened. And it's interesting that he railed against the administration and how the head of the administration was ignorant and was ignorant of so many different things. But then he said the quiet part out loud, which really alluded to the fact that no, they weren't oblivious to those things. What it was is that they were actually manipulating those things. And it's very important when things are like this happen that you might not like the previous people or you might not like the current people, but that you don't just minimize it and say that, well, they're stupid, they're ignorant, they don't know anything. And because if that's the case and he defeated you, then you were defeated or conquered or overtaken by someone who was stupid and ignorant. And what does that say about you? But one of the aspects that he talked about as a during the time when he had a period of time, and he showed so much awareness, and people just didn't realize that he was telling you what you're going to talk about as far as with the media. His daughter had done something that one of the other candidates previously had done, and he had eviscerated for this. And once his daughter did it, this was in 2018. Once his daughter did it, he wanted to get all the heat and get it off of her. And people don't realize, a lot of times he was just masterful at this, on driving what the narrative was going to be that day. It wasn't going to be about whatever it is they wanted to talk about. It was going to be about what he wanted them to talk about. And so he said he told everybody in the room, including, and this is something that John Bolton wrote down in that book, was that he was going to lean into supporting the Saudi government after the assassination of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, and he was going to lean into supporting them. And they were like, no, that's you don't want to do that. That bring a whole lot of heat. And and what he wrote in the book was, yes, he knows that. He says, but it's going to divert attention from his daughter. And he said, especially if I read the statement in person, that's what it's going to do. So he was telling them, no, I don't want them to talk about that. About that issue. This is what they're going to talk about. We're going to make it so that issue gets swept under the rug. I'm going to say something that's incendiary, and they'll talk about that. And so that's a situation where you have it. And right after, he talks about, oh my goodness, how ignorant this individual was, but he was controlling what the narrative was. So where someone goes off and they tell you like, oh, well, if you look at what they're actually doing, and he tells you exactly what he did and how he did it, to say that was ignorant, or to say that the person had no understanding of what it was that they were doing, is completely false. I mean, you're looking at that whole aspect of it, and it was completely false. The fact that he didn't understand what he was doing, because he's telling you these are the outcomes that's going to happen. It's almost like someone comes up to you, and they come up to you at your house, and they start talking just crazy mad noise at you, and you come on out, and you get in their face like man to man, and blah 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 blah. And they might even take a shot or two in the mouth because they sit up there, they talking all this noise. Then you turn right back around, you walk in the house, and they don't. His boys and sit there and cleaned you out while you were out there talking to them. And now you know exactly what it was that they were doing. That was a distraction to get your mind off of what it was they were doing on the back end. And so then instead of looking at that and taking that into account the next time he comes up and he does the same thing, if you go out there and do it again without securing your premises and making sure that everything is safe, then you're the fool, because they've already shown you that that's what they're going to do, or that was a tactic that they used. And it was one that was utilized over and over again by many where they dictate what the media is going to talk about and what the media is going to feed you. And you can see that because you start to think about, what is it that a president can actually do? And I guess that's where I'm actually getting to, is when looking at it as, what is it that a president can actually do? Can they do the things that are ascribed to them, right? That the media and everyone else says, hey, they have the bully pulpit, they have executive orders, but they don't actually make the laws. So you can look at what are the executive orders that this individual has done. You can look at that aspect of it to kind of get an idea of what it is they're actually doing, or what it is that they're actually going about doing in that regard. But but that's one of those situations where you're looking at their actions and not their words. And I think it's really important in getting there and understanding that we are trying to look at actions and not just words. And I guess I'm going to say, I wanted to get through that real fast, as I seen that you're sitting there patient. So what did you have to say about the whole aspect of being told what it is that we're going to be talking about?
Well, I just want to just build upon that, and then after that, we'll keep on building into it. Because you made a beautiful monologue about looking at a person's actions instead of their words. Um, uh, even in with that situation is like, hey, when we start looking at the executive orders and what they've actually done, you know, people only thing that people are talking about is just actions of the previous, and not really the, you know, the orders of what this person has actually passed, you know, or the orders that he actually signed in his directive, you know. And then when we look at a current president, all right, and you actually look at his executive orders and his directives, all right, and then the promise. I tell you, one order that he did not sign is about getting rid of all these student loans. You know what I'm saying? You know,
He sure didn't.
yeah, like he didn't sign a executive order about these student loans. I'll tell you that. Unless that's like his unless that's like his ace card or whatever, or his river card or whatever, or his trump card, you know, like towards the re-elections. Like, okay, hey, I got everybody's student loans done. Vote for me. You know, that's the only way I can see how that happening. But now back onto the topic. You know, like I may be going off the reservation here, and
I
most
doubt.
like I am. Maybe going off the reservation. You may not agree with me and things like that, and I believe certain people. Okay, I don't think it's racist anymore or racism anymore, right? In 2022, I think it's placism, and when it comes down to people putting people in their place, and and uh for the African American community or the indigenous community, like they only allow people with receipts to talk for us, you know, and that's the place because of why it's not businessmen talking for us, you know. Like I think we're the only group of people where our business, they don't allow our businessmen to speak for us or have that platform for us. They allow our entertainers who shuck and jive,
Yeah.
and these entertainers, and then after that the entertainers, you know, hey, they're already actors, so what they do is say, hey man, just read your lines, all right, and make it convincing. It's just like a commercial. Just here we'll tell you what to say, and that's what bleeds into um, the rappers. Okay, just like you know, we had a discussion yesterday. Hey, there's four types, multiple types of hip hop, right?
Hmm.
And then just the gangster rap was the only one that's only being here. So they put rap in its place, you know, instead and only spokespeople that can speak on this particular thing, like a Tupac, a 50 Cent, you know, Eminem, you know, going to modern day, you know, all these clowns, you know. So and all the newest hip hop artists, like, hey, you have to look like this, or hey, like this. So really, I feel this placism here is going is running amok here, and you know, and I feel that, matter of fact, I know, not that I feel, is I know that whenever we talk with each other, you know, black man to black man, black person to black person, or black woman to black woman, okay, it seems like people don't like people ascending above their place. Like, hey, I'm here, and then I see somebody ascending here, or hey, getting all these more degrees than a thermometer, and now I'm hateful. Now I'm trying to tear down this person because this person ascended. So I don't want you to get back in this place. So therefore, I don't feel like I'm a failure. You know, um, and to me, it just seems like um, we need to look into it more, because if we can say like, uh, and then whenever we get out of our place, that's when like the rhetoric comes. oh, you N word, or you know, go back to Africa, is whenever we step out of our place, you know.
I
All right, go ahead.
no, no, so I feel you. I feel you on that. Keep on going. I was just agreeing.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yeah. So yeah. So when we started stepping out of our place, and that's when our perceived racism comes in. But or we say, oh, this person's racist or whatever. But no, all they're trying to do is they're trying to get you out of character, so therefore you can go back into your place. And then while you're operating only in this place in society, and for the indigenous community, or for us, it's always at the bottom of the barrel. It's always the race to the bottom, and we're always programmed to be at the bottom. And then after that, when we see somebody, it's always bad, And plus, society, America is raised us that way because of when we look at, uh, uh, black black foods is devil foods, right? And then we look at white foods, it's always angel foods. A
Yeah.
matter of fact, all the way up to the 1980s, okay, you either had black or white on your driver's license.
Yep.
So it's always about keeping some in place. And then what they do is they'll take one, they'll be able to shuck and jive, and then, hey, this is the one, be like him. And we don't even know, okay, what did this person do to get here to shuck and jive, and to be exalted above all others? Like, I don't know if you follow the Cardi B trial. If you look at her public perception of what she actually portrays, right? Pretty much, she is not very becoming of her, and not very reflective of her family values. But then again, this is a married woman that has kids, right?
All right.
But and then now she wants to sue somebody, who sued and won against somebody who was speaking about that persona.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Tashkent kind of took it to another level and things like that. But
Oh, very much,
yeah,
very, as a,
she
because to be able to actually sue somebody and win in a defamation case, that burden is high. And she actually,
yes, 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 yes. Well, clearly got the clear and convincing because it's a civil case, right?
all right.
Yeah, more likely than not. But yeah, man. It just for me, just you know, she was paid to shuck and jive, right? And she shucked and jives, and then now she wants to say, no, you know, I'm a family woman now. I'm this, I'm that. When she got on the stand. So I was reading some of the transcripts, and I was like, why can't you portray this in your music? Or like when your kids come up and they see you do this, okay, you know, what do you think that they're gonna think?
Well, I think that gets at a deeper point of what you're talking about right now, and especially, and let me read this comment here. It's like Abijah Hernandez said, "Crab in a bucket mentality from people being in survival based mindset. Truly sad to see." I would definitely agree with that, because what you're talking about essentially is who's held out as the avatars, who's held out as the role models, who's held out as what we need to get as a what are we trying to reach as far as for black people. And the models that are held out for us are not, and this is a personal opinion, but they're not good role models. They're definitely not something that you want to emulate, but this is what we're being held out, or what's being held out for black people. This is the image that's being held out for black people. And it's, for me, it really it's a sad thing to look at. Like you talking about the placism. I always try to say there's two different classes. We have a caste system. I know they say that we don't, but there's a caste system,
Yes.
and you have where you have the rich and then you have the poor, but then you also have the black, or you have black and you have white. And for if you're in that black, as a specifically black, poor, white, as a caste, then what you're going to be looking at that point is this is what's held out for you. You have, and it's always interesting. I heard a discussion earlier today, and one of the things they asked that in that discussion that I really I was like, man, I wish they would hold this poll as well. A lot of people that are held out as leaders in the community, they're being touted as leaders in the community, but the community has never anointed them as leaders of the community. As a matter of fact,
Facts.
if you look at those individuals, if you were to hold a poll to say, hey, is somebody like, oh, I don't know, like a Reverend Al Sharpton, is he a leader in the community? I think that if you ask the community, the answer would be an unequivocal no. He would poll less than 30, 20%. However, he's held out as he is the person that everybody needs to go to because that's who the media props up, that's who the corporations prop up, and that's who the government props up on the people that they will meet with. So if he wants a meeting with a government official, they'll grant him a meeting with a government official. If he wants a meeting to go get funding with big business, he'll get a meeting with those individuals to go get funding for big business. Whether or not he's actually doing the work for the community or not, that's immaterial to them. Like you talking about being put into place, but that's also going to be what's going to be put on the news. It's going to be what's put in social media as this is the person that's taking the lead for your community, and this is what you're looking for. The same thing with entertainers. I think that is a path that is put out there that if you want to be successful and you're Black, this is what you're looking to emulate, right?
Yeah, be an athlete or whatever, be a comic, comedian, be an actor.
This is where if you want to make money, these are the fields that Black people excel at in making millions. So if you want to make millions, I say go out there and go put your body on the line, play football, or go whatever the sport is, go do that. If you want to make millions, then go in there and go read some lines that somebody tells you on what to say and act a certain way that they tell you on how to act, that it becomes that's detrimental in many of those roles as far as towards the community, and continue to emulate that so that the younger generation comes up and they do the same thing and they emulate those same morals. And it's all up and it's just about chasing the dollar it's no real substance to it, but just chase the money. And that's where we're for, at least for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so there's definitely an issue in just like you're talking about the placism, and that you have this caste system where if you're Black and if you're poor, you're automatically at the bottom, and then you have the outliers. And then what do? We hold out the outliers and say, oh, look at them, look at whatever it is they've done, you can be just like them. And the vast majority are not. The vast majority of us are not in those places, and yet still that's what's held out for us. Is to be if you want to be successful, that's where you need to be at. That is your place in society. Same way that they have for Asians, right? As they're in STEM fields or math fields or whatever, and that's where you can be successful. And all the studies show that there's nothing that is dependent on race that does that. A lot of that is based on our culture and what it is that we push in our culture. And what it is that we push in our culture is just what we talked about. And it's an extremely negative thing. I'm just always trying to figure out how do we get around that, because that I guess that's where my mind goes. As identifying it, we can identify exactly what it is. How do we get around that? I guess that's the question.
See, like me is, I think we need to go up under. Well, this is what I know. Excuse me, I need to stop saying that thing. This is what I know. I know that we need to go up under a rebranding, okay, a remarketing strategy. Because a lot of these skills you see are very entrepreneurship. Okay, like I was talking to a lady today, and she had like freaking five businesses. Entrepreneurship. Hey, you see a drug dealer, right? That's entrepreneurship skills right there.
I agree. I definitely agree.
You see you see a pimp. That's actually people skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then plus entrepreneurship. Okay, that's management skills, CEO types of things. Don't get me wrong. It is a bad,
the merit of it, I get you. I say
yes.
You look at the characteristics that's there. I get that aspect of it as well, because the characteristics is somebody, like you said, there's people skills, there's all these things, and then where do you direct it at, right? So what direction do you take that skill set, those soft skills or whatever that you have? What direction do you take them in? And a lot of times what's held out for you, especially if you're coming up in the community, the examples that are there, you don't have a lot of positive examples of how to be an entrepreneur. The pipeline that we have that goes through the schools is to become an employee. That the end result
Facts.
is not has a you're in a very horrible situation. Let's say that you're in the inner city, you're in a deplorable situation. You see that your family is suffering. You see that that there's not enough food on the table. Your dad's probably either in jail, if he's not in jail, he's not there because we've had a severe breakdown in our families. And I would hate to sit there. I would love to be able to say that there's not a huge breakdown in the family, but there is. And it's the direction that it goes in and you don't have that male figure in there. You don't have a family that's together. And by every metric, and I've done this on multiple shows to show that by every metric out there, kids suffer without a father in the home. And we have that. And we have that. And I guess I need to show that again here in this one, but as I can show you the stats that shows that is something that we have in abundance within our community. So now you have that aspect to it as well. A household that's suffering, they're in the project or whatever, and then it's like, okay, so what direction do you go if you're trying to do better for your family and you're a young man and you want to do better for your family? Currently, the option is to go in there and go do those fields or go do those jobs that you're talking about. That's what's held out for a lot of us growing up is, oh, pimping, dealing drugs, right? Being a D-boy, you can sit there and make money. You can also there's also a cool factor to it. Those are
Yeah,
things that
being that guy, yeah.
and the reality is that in many ways those guys have a lot of respect within the community, and they have what a lot of young men really want, right? They have the money, which and it's more specifically, let me not sugarcoat it, they have the women, right? And it's where a lot of the women go a lot of women will deal with the drug dealers, they'll deal with those guys who are pimps, and it's with a lot of the young guys they see the flash in them, and they see that they have the women, and they go like, ooh, that's what I'm going to emulate. That's what's in front of me. And then when I look at it on TV, that's again the role models for me that's on TV. And it's like, okay, if I look in our music, that's the role models in our music. So the culture is one that they continue to push that narrative. And for me, it's bothersome that that's the narrative that gets pushed within our community. And it's not even by somebody else that's doing it. Kind of like how getting upset about D-boys or drug dealers, that they're poisoning the community. It's not somebody else coming in there. It's us. We're continuing to perpetuate the these models. And I really do struggle and I suffer with how do we do that rebranding that you're talking about? How do we change this image that we have? We don't have our own stations or our own channels.
Yeah, all media.
Yeah, we don't have our own media. Everything that's out there right now that gets pushed is negative. Like right now, I know that you and I sitting here talking, YouTube, the algorithm, if I know, look, if I really wanted to drive the views up, if I talk negative, there's certain things I know that I could say and do that would definitely get me the views. That YouTube would definitely the algorithm will pick it up and like boom, toss that out there, right? You can go on TubeBuddy or something like that, and you can take a look at what are the topics, what are the things that you can talk about, what are the key words that you can mention that will get you pushed up in that algorithm, that'll help to make you money. And that's where, and I don't want to be driven by the money as much as trying to help the community. And I guess that's where I'm struggling at is how do we do this? How do we get our own media? How do we develop something that goes counter to this proposed culture that we have right now?
Um, um, that's see, I'm a man of action, just like you said, like I'm a man of action. I started well, this has been a regular practice. And then after that I'll see about bringing about a rebranding, or we can start brainstorming or do a think tank. Um like I volunteer at boys and girls clubs and orphanages and things like that, right? And matter of fact, I mentored a couple high school students recently, like right before COVID hit. No, still keep in touch with a couple of them, and you know, I was talking to this. I'm just gonna just call him let's call him Joe. Easy. All right. So I was talking to Joe, right? And I was like, Joe, I was like, hey man, like man, you're doing really well. Like in you're a great public speaker. I think you'll be a great lawyer, right? I was like, I think there's something that I think there's something here. I think you need to build upon this. Right. That's like, hey, your undergraduate degree is like, hey, it doesn't matter what you get into, but at least get in something that might help you build upon the skill that you're already developing. And it came back to me, and we're talking to him. I was like, hey, so like, what you think about doing? And he said, you know what, I want to major in music, and I just want to be a beat producer. I just want to just make uh, beats like Kanye and all that good stuff, and I want to be a rapper. And I was like, Joe, I was like you, I was like, all right, Joe, I just wanted to support him. I was like, all right, well, whatever you do, just hey man, just keep your head up, and then hey, just get your degree, and you can always come to law school as long as you get your degree. Just have that as a backup plan for yourself, just in case the music stuff don't work out. Because you don't want to kill somebody's dream.
Correct.
Because because we all, well, I don't know, we all know, but uh, as an older gentlemen, we know that the likelihood of you actually being chosen to be a industry artist, right, is slim to none. You have to be. Why would these music executives choose a no-name hype? Okay, coming out of wherever you come from, rather than just go get their son or their nephew or or cousin, say, hey, and put their family on, you know.
Right.
And that's what I found out with music industry. It's very much a a family business. Like
Very incestuous.
Takashi six, yeah, Takashi 6ix9ine. That's like the nephew of Rahm Emanuel. The governor of Illinois.
The mayor, yeah,
Yeah, mayor.
yeah,
Yeah, or former.
yeah,
Yeah, former mayor. Yeah, former mayor of Chicago, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's
So
very
like,
incestuous.
yeah. So I tried to tell, I was like, hey man, like, you got to be very connected, and you have to, like, hey, everybody knows everybody in there. So, and since everybody knows everybody, it's like, hey, they rather put on a family member than put you on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that kind of hurt me. And I have another one. He was a basketball player, and matter of fact, he's not even in college anymore. And he was very good. Like the young man, he was very good at just those soft skills, talking to girls, all this other good stuff. I was like, man, he had skills, but he dropped out.
But see, and that's at least for me. I started looking at it as to how do we. So, like you mentioned, the volunteering here and volunteering there's like the Boys and Girls Club and whatnot, and I think those are important aspects of it. But how do we branch out to reach a larger community at
Well,
whole? Because one of the things, like if you look at some of the Caribbean cultures, like Jamaicans or whatever, there's a lot of those, and even over in the UK, there's a lot of places where they have like Saturday schools, or there's places where they have extra time for learning within the community. Because and you can see that these black communities
we
overseas,
we,
how they
we do
value.
have it though. We do have it. We
Okay.
have it. We have it. It's just we don't utilize it like that. We are the most over church people.
Uh,
Like, hey, you drive down on. That's what I'm saying. Go drive down to Sunnyside. I know for a fact because I counted, and there's like in a square mile, I counted 15 churches in 1 square mile.
as a
15.
I definitely hear you, but the churches are not. I shouldn't. Well, you know what? I'm just going to let me in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm getting ready to put my foot in my mouth right now. So that I'm looking at it as in most black communities, that's the thing that you'll find two things. You'll find an overabundance of liquor stores and churches. And churches do just about as much benefit as the liquor stores at this point in our community, because they're not there helping to serve the community. And that's where I have the issue at, is that within our community, the church used to be the place. Uh, hey, how's it going there, Gospel News? He said, hey, y'all. But
Hey,
the church used to be the place that you could go to get help. That was the place where, that was where you had the rise of people like Abernathy and King and like those individuals where they could formulate and get a Montgomery bus boycott, and we can get on the same page where you can have a place where, hey, do we have some store that we can go practice at on doing these sit-ins, right? Where they had the training beforehand in order to sit there and get on the same page. That used to be the purview of the church. And today, that's not it. The church stays apolitical but pro money, right? That's
of course.
that's where they're at this point. And that's and granted, that's my perspective on it. I'm not going to say,
but my point is, we have the infrastructure there. Okay,
yeah,
even though it's not there, it's just like we just have to utilize the infrastructure. Like, hey, if you believe in it or don't believe it, doesn't matter. The infrastructure is there, and it's time for us to use it.
It should be. I agree,
because we go to Sunday school, right? Like most people, hey, when they go to church, they go to Sunday school. All right, of course, most people don't even read the Bible. All they do is get talked at the whole time and things like that, which is, it's good that at least somebody's trying to seek some type of enrichment, but instead of just trying to seek some kind of enrichment, because what we sit in church, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
you're not talking about a black
yeah. Yeah. Well, just Well, it sounds like when I used to go to church, it was all day.
Oh,
now that you all day.
I'm like, if you said Sunnyside, you talking all day. That's an all day affair.
Yeah, all day.
That's
like, boy.
Miss Johnson, I need you to clear my schedule. I'm going to be gone all day.
Yes, sir. And I think that's a part of a component is we need to utilize the infrastructure that we already have, because other people, because other communities come into our community, and what do they use first? Like these political candidates, okay, what do they use first? They go to our churches. That's the first thing they go to, and go to our mosques and all that. So therefore, hey, let me meet with meet with the minister coalition or whatnot. And then after that, work their way around the community and get deals and whatever. And then after that, see what part of labor unions that have a large majority of our community in there. And after that's what they utilize. So like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but they utilize that, but it's all contingent on how much money they give the church. So it's like, hey, I want to come in here and do X. I want to talk about my campaign or whatever, and the church will give X amount of dollars because they know they're going to get it on the back end, right? So one of those situations wherein, and even what donation are they going to give to the church becomes more contingent. And what my point is that I'm making here is that the donation here to the church should be in a stronger community. The church should be the building should be used to help foster those, because they've taken a lot of the things, like you talking about the Boys and Girls Club. When I was growing up, you had the Boys and Girls Club.
Jack and Jill.
You had all those aspects that they were pushing both parents into the workforce, but at the same time, they had a place that was safe for kids to go to in order to not have to deal with the aspects of being on the street. Let me read this one comment here from Gospel News. He has, it's a hustle and a falsehood. Deuteronomy 28:36.
But preach that scripture. Preach it. Preach that scripture. Yeah.
So I look at it, and I'm constantly looking at the angle that they're always coming from is what can the church get out of it? They're looking for more parishioners so they can get more money in the coffers, right? So when they pass that plate around, they want more money in the plate. And for me, I'm like, okay, so you can get more money in the plate if you actually are serving the community. But only thing they're doing, they're just talk. It's a lot of talk, and they're not utilizing, like you said, but the buildings, the infrastructure is there, but they're not utilizing that going down like one of the places that was right across the street from two major universities is Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Wheeler.
And they just had this really huge addition that they made to that church, so huge that they bumped off a Houston Icon, which was Frenchie's, to another
Yeah.
location, right? So
Yeah.
they can make their church this takes up over a block. And you look at it, okay, so what's being done for the community inside of that building? Can you go in there on a Saturday and say, hey, we would like to be able to have a place where we can have the kids come in, and on Saturdays, regardless of whether or not they belong to this church or not, this is something can we use this for the community at large? And a lot of times the answer to that is no. You want to sit there and you have them get there for the community. It's like it doesn't get used for the community. And so I don't know if that's the answer. Well, I don't know. I guess let me.
I said part of the answer
Yep.
is utilizing this. Okay, don't get me wrong. They're going to be asking for money, trying to hustle for money, but right now it's the cost of doing business because right now, well, we're in a different age. We're not in the '60s anymore. We're not in the '50s anymore. Heck, we're not even in the '80s or '90s anymore. We're in the 2020s now. All right, and that means we have to update because right now we have an outdated model. At the end of the day, it's outdated. Okay, it's our model has not been updated since the 1960s. It's been taken apart, and after that, we still been apart.
Yeah.
So, hey, hey, let me take the men out here. All right, now here, let me throw drugs on the men. All right, now since we got the men out here, let's over sexualize the women, and now we're in the era of now we're trying to bastardize the women, and it's working, because we have an outdated model. Like we haven't updated our model since the '60s.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason why the civil rights movement is not even the civil rights movement of the 1960s anymore.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
Oh
apologize.
yeah. No. Go ahead.
Because that even with the civil rights movement that you're talking about, everybody else piggybacked off of it, and everybody else is getting their
Explain it
right.
out.
Yeah, and they pimped us out for it, and now we get nothing. And actually, let me read these comments also before they go down too far. It's like Gospel News says it was changed one slave master for another. Or let's see, and then it's money, money, money. I agree with both of those Gospel News, and then the last as there is how we're going to advance in a falsehood. And I guess that's the question, at least for me. Like you're talking about going back to what you were talking about here, Westradamus. I guess that's the question. How do we, if the model's outdated, which is what we're talking about right now, and I know that we need training. That's something but that we are now adverse to training. How do we change the model in order to address where we're at right now in the current stream? So in the current stream of time, we talked about a little bit yesterday, like what happened with Black Wall Street. It got burned down and bombed, and then we didn't do a whole lot about. Well, I shouldn't say we didn't do a whole lot about it, but everybody was scared to go back and rebuild it. How do we go about changing that model? And that's where I really want to get to. What can we do? How can we use this infrastructure? How do we get these places where we can get this information out? And I don't want the BS information of just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and you don't have bootstraps to pull yourself up by. In recognizing that as a whole, that Black people, like I said, in the caste system that we're in, if you're looking at the bell curve, the average for Black people is going to be poor. Maybe not extremely poor, but poor to the point where it's like you don't have many of your daily needs. And then it's like they do this and you want to do the same thing that a lot of the white people do who do have the money, and they spend their money on their vices, but they don't have extra income in order to spend the money on the vices. So I don't know, besides reparations and knowing that that's not something that's going to be coming anytime soon, how do we address it in a way that we can have this infrastructure, utilize the infrastructure, knowing that the people in charge of the infrastructure are there primarily and deal primarily with just the money aspect, as Gospel News mentioned, of us today. I don't know how.
Well, for me, if I was in charge, okay, say, hey, this is the model that we need to do. All right. We have already done this model, and what's old needs to be new again, right?
Mhm.
Remember back in Reconstruction, all right, Reconstruction era, all right? Okay, we were actually very prosperous during Reconstruction era. We had members in Congress, we were owning land, we were in government seats and things like that. Then Jim Crow laws passed. Okay, so now we weren't able.
But
But
there's a step there, but go ahead. I'll come back to
oh
that
yeah,
step.
of course, there's a step there. Now, what happened is now it's like okay, uh, now we have to start doing business with each other, and only us, and only the people that's a part of the community that's invested in the community. And then that's when Rosewood started happening, and that's when the Indian Wall Street happened in Tulsa, in North Carolina, in Chicago. There wasn't just one Indian Wall Streets or the Black Wall Streets in Tulsa. It wasn't just one of them. There's
Oh, I know.
multiple of them.
Rosewood, you had all. Yeah, I got you. I definitely agree with that.
Okay, and Rosewood, the reason why what happened to them is they started minting their own money,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's what ended up getting them done in. They start minting their own money, and then after that's like, matter of fact, we're done with this money over here. We're gonna start just doing our own stuff. All right, and then once you start doing all that stuff, bam, they got cleaned out.
And they're
So
essentially doing that with Bitcoin right now. That's minting your own money, but that's another subject. But go ahead.
oh yeah, oh man, we can go deep there too. All right, we can go real deep in that. And it's
Yeah,
and it can be used as a weapon to actually destabilize the government because most
correct.
governments are central banking and all that good stuff. And if you get out of things out of central banking, okay, that means they can no longer control.
That's
So
I'm with
now
you
you're just
here.
stabilizing. All right, but nor here nor there. I can go real deep into it, and then
I'm
after we
saying,
jump in conspiracy theory land.
yeah. I guess it kind of would be. Let me get these comments real fast, and I'm gonna hop back in with you. It says, Gospel News says it didn't benefit us all at all. MLK did have it. I mean, the have a dream man. Jeremiah 23, did it benefit us? I think partially, but I can come back to that in a minute. Um, uh, like never, and was a LOL there from the Gospel News, and then it's like we are in the same position we've always been. It's a spiritual problem. I would agree there's an aspect of spirituality to it where we talk about what our morality is, but I'm at the point right now where I really want to get to the actions, and I want to come back to one of the things that you talked about here, Westradamus. I just to fill in that gap that you were talking about between the Black Wall Street and the Reconstruction era, where Black people were being prosperous in Reconstruction, and then one of the things that happened at that point, and why in Black Wall Street or Indian Wall Street, what would happen at that point is that they were dealing only with Black people. Was that when between those two times there was a thing called the Compromise of 1877 that came out of the election of 1876, right?
Yes.
So we had 1876. They as a condition of they made a backroom deal, and this is one of the things why I say we got to be careful with this thing about allies. And this is one of the things that you look at what they did with the Black Wall Street deal is that they recognized that their allies weren't always allies. And today I think that we've lost that understanding that while it's helpful to have those allies, they at a moment's notice, if it looks like they need to turn their back on you in order to benefit themselves, i.e., pulling all the troops out of the South in the middle of Reconstruction when we're actually starting to do better and actually starting to be integrated within the society as it was, because that was their goal. They're saying that was their goal to make sure that the society was more homogenous. Then they pulled the troops out as a precursor. I say, so here's your allies, and it's like, we might have to do. What do we got to do? We got to sell out the blacks. Let's do that, right? As
Mhm.
those darkies, we can sell out the darkies, and that as a who cares, and then you get like the Black Wall Street or Indian Wall Street where you have okay, well we can't count on who was supposed to be our allies anymore. Now we need to be able to functionally count on ourselves, and we need to have something where we can fall back on as a community. And I want to know, how do we, again, I keep coming back in my head. I'm like, okay, so what's old needs to be made new. I get it.
Yeah, because like with
Yeah.
gospel news talk about our spiritual problem. Well, back in the 20s, okay, we had a leader called Marcus Garvey,
Mm-hmm.
and he said it doesn't matter what you worship and who you pray to. It doesn't matter. It's all about how we're being treated because of what we look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we need to unite up under that political base,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, and then we go from there.
And because you realize that, and this is sometimes I have conversations with some of us, and one of the statements that keeps on coming up a lot of times is, we're not a monolith. Black people, we're not a monolith. We don't all think the same, look the same, do the same. And I understand that, but we're all, like you said, the discrimination against us is as a group, as a saying. And the only way that we can actually get away from that is that if we had to come together as a group, even though we don't all think the same, look the same, and do the same, in order as a group, because that's where the power lies, right? For us as a people, is as a group coming together in order to do that. That's fundamentally where, at least from my has a, and I'm constantly in my head trying to figure out, and I guess I'm gonna have to start beating the streets, and starting to talk. You mentioned the churches. Maybe I'm gonna have to start getting together with some of these churches and see if we can get some kind of programs together that are
No.
geared towards just our community, and getting our community together again, and looking specifically. I'll be honest with you, the goal for me specifically is our younger generation, because there's a lot of us in this generation that are I know that there's a lot of things for myself personally, and this is just speak as a, where I look at things and go, oh, internally people being broken, and trying to figure out how do we fix that. Might not be that you're going to be able to do it within this generation, but the upcoming generation, because that's who the government's targeting. That's who big business is targeting. That's who the advertisers are targeting. Because if you want to get anything done, those are the levers that you're going to be doing, that you're going to be dealing with, and they have it set up that that's what they're doing at this point, is targeting the next generation to make sure that they have a new generation of consumers, a new generation that votes blue no matter who, a new generation of individuals that are on the brand swoosh, or on the three stripes, the check, the what, the nice cat, whatever it is, and they making sure that those things are currently ingrained in the next generation. And I want to figure out a way on how it is that we can our next
Uh,
generation.
well, like man, like let me go ahead and keep it a buck, man. Like we're old relics, man. Like we're relics of the past, you know.
Yeah.
We're relics of you know, and we're gonna get tuned out, you know. Because we can talk about this stuff until black and blue in the face and things like that. It's just for relics.
Yeah.
And the thing is about it is, like, we're gonna have to be up to a level, because the only thing that people listen to now, or at least we're talking about young people, they like seeing successes. They like seeing all the flash and glooms, like, hey, this man got money, this person got this, he got that, you know. And just me just going into schools and talking, giving speeches, and me going around with the young kids, is like they like you to be flashy, and then once you show all the flash and pizzazz, then they want to listen to you. But yeah, if you come up to them like, hey, you're just in regular shirt, tie, a nice little suit, and you try to pull them aside, try to say something, they're gonna say like, hey, screw you, old man, you don't know nothing. I know it happened to me multiple times. It's like, well, what you trying to say there, old man? You know, I'm like, man, I'm just in my 30s, you know. you know, but
What's funny about that is that so on the one hand, you talk to them in school, they're like that, they don't want to hear from you. And if I show
no.
then if I show up in a suit at the jail, like when I've been over at Baker Street here in Houston, all of a sudden all the inmates want to talk to you, especially the young ones. Oh, he must know something. But it's like, now you don't went past where it's like, you see me at the school. It's like, I don't need to hear anything from you. You see me at the jail, and it's like, oh, he knows something. Let me read this comment real fast. It's we continue to avoid the obvious. The problem's looking you right in the face. Yes, and I'll let you tell me what what that solution is there, Gospel News. But yeah, but I agree with you. They don't want to hear from you at West Virginia. It's like,
No,
oh, he ain't has a
let me tell you this story. Okay, I
okay.
was I was speaking at this middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all right, this is pre fly tie guy, Brian. Now I'm always fly with my ties and all that good stuff. Uh, so this is like plain Jane, but I'm still in the suit, and I was working at GM at the time, pre law school and all that good stuff, right? And so I go talk to this middle school for these kids, right? And like I thought, like, hey man, I think I did pretty good, like, hey man, I didn't have all these kids just, sleeping on me and all this other good stuff. A couple kids actually listened to me, right? At least one or two, right?
All right.
All right. And then they brought in this local rapper, man, grilled out, saggy pants, like he couldn't even enunciate half his words. And this dude, he just rocked the crowd because he had the bling bling. He had the bling bling on. Like he had a spinner necklace on. He got like every chain in his house. It seemed like he was wearing his whole net worth. Grill, everything. Gucci with the B glasses on, all that good stuff. And I don't know what he said, but I don't think anybody really understood what he said. But he rocked the crowd, and then at the end of it, most kids are going up to him trying to get his autograph and all this other good stuff, man. And I was like, wow, I'm over here just trying to kick game and whatever.
Because
Like, don't get me wrong, a couple kids came up to me afterwards, but when you see like the whole school over there on him, you're like, dang, like,
it's like
you know,
I'm trying to hip you guys on game to keep you guys out, and they're like, no, we want the flash, we want the pizzazz, we want the sizzle.
yeah,
We don't actually need the steak. We just want the sizzle, and
yeah.
that's and I don't know how to. And I'll be honest with you, because and I recognize that I'm an outlier in this, right? Because all my life I've been like this, where I'm not looking. I look at my again. This goes back to my old man. My dad used to tell me all the time: actions speak louder than words. In the Bible, what is it? Faith without works is dead. I want to see what comes out of it, not the. I want to see it by their actions, not the words, right? Because some people, they come in and they put that pimp game on you, and they'll say whatever it is that they need to in order to get the result out of you that they want, and then it's like they leave you high and dry, kind of like our allies on that compromise of 1877. And I don't know how, because I know that I am the outlier. I am an outlier in this regard, where I want the substance and I don't want just the sizzle. I don't want you just to give me just the sizzle. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you reach the younger generation to say, hey, look, I get it. You want the sizzle. How do I get
and
I don't know how to get to that point.
and to tie it back up to is like we are told what to talk about, right?
That's exactly what it is. I say the media tells you
Yeah,
exactly what you're going to talk about.
and they have penetrated and they have actually said what's culture and what's counterculture. Remember when Tumblr was the big social media thing, and Tumblr accounts. Now nobody has Tumblr now. Now
Hmm.
TikTok is the big deal now. Now it's going to be like, what's going to be the next one,
There's always going to
So
be, but it's just, how do you get that? I don't know how to. Let me read these before they go down too far. But uh, there's a, why are we the people who is always seeking acceptance? We don't see no other race act like this or
I
us.
disagree with that.
And let's see. And then what's the next one is amen. All right. So so give me the disagreement with it, and I because I want to answer that question. But give me, what do you, as you said you disagree?
No, he does. I do agree with. All right, we are seeking acceptance,
Hmm.
but whenever like from my experience, this may be just my anecdotal experience. I always have other groups of people approach me seeking my acceptance.
Mhm.
You know, and it's across the board.
That's because
You
you're
know,
black, which means you're cool.
yes, and they're all seeking my acceptance, and I just don't give it to them.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, whatever. You know, and just keep it moving. You know, and because I'm just a guy that's to myself. It's not because like hey, anything else. It's like okay, why are you submitting yourself to me when you should be submitting yourself to nobody?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's what I say for us. I said black people are the avatars of what's cool in society. They and we pimp ourselves out as. Let me give you an example on that. Give me 1 second. Let me read this. It says, "Do you know my greatest audience is white and Asian?" I believe that. I
Uh huh.
definitely.
See what I'm talking about? That's what I'm saying. They're trying to get that acceptance, baby. That
I,
melanin.
I said, let me give this example. As a anecdotally, I remember one time. This is a while back. I was still in as a IT project manager at a oil and gas company at this point in my life, and I was at a restaurant watching the UFC fights. So I was into some MMA. I used to love MMA. I still do like MMA, but I was there watching an MMA fight, and I'm sitting there, and a local police officer, he and I were sitting at the bar. I got wings, I got a beer, we're talking, we're chopping it up, and behind me, I keep hearing these guys, and they keep on saying the word nigga, and I can hear that they're definitely not black. Right, you could tell by the timbre of their voice that they're not black. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the police officer, and he's a brother also, and he's not saying a whole lot. And we went from, conversating to just drinking. And it got to the point that I heard nigga one too many times, right? And I turned around and it's a table full of Asian dudes laughing and talking, calling each other nigga. Right. So all of my anger where I was getting ready to sit there like, look, I was like, A, they're not even talking to me. B, they think it's cool to be like us. And C, they talking to each other. It's like, and here I am, I'm upset about it. And I turn around to the brother who he said, man, he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, because he turned around, he said, I know I have a job to do. I was gonna be a little slow in getting to my job, is what the brother told me, who was a cop. And he said, but because he knew he had to get me off of somebody or whatever. And it's like, oh, he was gonna be a little slow in getting to it. But we started laughing. I was like, when did it become cool to be a nigga? And it was one of those things that you looked at. It's like we made that a cool thing where now they're calling each other that because we done made that the cool thing. That
Yeah.
derogatory statement is cool. We done pimped out as everything they want to be like us in that regard because we're the avatars of cool. And we'll pimp out being cool and we'll sell each other out just for that.
Well, our place is to control culture. Okay, like most Irish people, they're cops and things like that. For us is is culture. You know, so when things come and that's our place, and then but it's whoever the powers to be that pays us because we're more like the oath keepers of what is cool
Exactly.
because and therefore that we actually control the world's culture because of uh, uh, pretty much what we said kind of goes culturally.
Because if a
You
black person,
know,
oh, that's cool. White person does, Asian person does, but a black dude does it. Oh, that's cool. You want to emulate that.
yeah, because people want to like like I was at this is a while back. They're having while back at one of my jobs, we were having a costume party, right? And at the job. And you know how many people actually came in as black people? Like they just want to wear an afro.
You know,
Yeah,
give me a second. Let me see if I can find this real fast because I want to share something. When you're saying that, because it goes to the point of context. Does context matter? But give me a hot minute. Let's see. Black people reject knowledge and that which will improve them. It reminds me of a Chris Rock joke. All right. Let's see. And Abijah says they're they're pointing left so that you don't look right. That's true. Ignorance is bliss. It's easier to be thought what to think rather than to think, especially when we aren't taught to think in schools. I agree with that as well. And gospel news, the last one is so if we're leading the masses, is in no, definitely not. As a, I don't think that we're leading the masses. We're being pimped out to lead the masses. We are the
Yes.
avatars. We are the one. It's like, okay, we'll give you a whole lot of money, Gospel News, if as a you go give this bad messaging, right? Everybody will look at you because you're cool, and it's coming from a black man, and then it's like, because it's coming from a black man, everybody else is accepted, and that's what we'll do. So the advertisers are coming after you, and they'll give you all this money if you as a just because you're black, because black is cool, right? Now you're old,
Yeah.
whatever, but we're the avatars of what is cool. Are leading the masses as a we're I guess you could say we're like the puppets on the string, and the strings being money. So the guys that are the people, the men and women that they put out there is to as the avatars are cool that everybody wants to be like, that has all the money, are being paid, right? And they're being paid handsomely, kind of like a D-boy on the block. You're being paid handsomely in order to sit there and put poison in your community. You're being paid handsomely in order, if you're on the world stage, to be able to go give these messaging, or to give this messaging that, hey, I just knocked my microphone. I apologize, but you're being paid handsomely for it. So
Um,
yeah,
I I
but
want to make a comment to Abijah's comment.
let me let me
Um,
let me come back to it and pull this up. Go ahead. So,
so one subtle thing I we notice is talking about pointing a finger, looking to left for us not to look right, and even saying that, that's funny because Jesse Jackson did that at the Martin Luther King assassination, but nor here nor there. Um, if you watch the movie Birth of a Nation, right? The fictional accounts of Nat Turner and his rebellion and things like that, right?
all right.
And there was a scene which was so paramount to me. Like Nat Turner was, he said he was reading a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the slave master lady, she comes in and says, you don't read books like, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to read books like this. All right, so she took the book out of his hand, and then after that gave him a Bible. You know, so therefore you don't want him to think anything outside the Bible, or any type of knowledge outside the Bible. And I think a lot of us has been taught from a perspective of a book, one singular perspective of a book.
The funny
And
part about that is that there's a slave Bible. But go ahead. I'm because I want to piggyback on what you're talking about with the slave Bible. But go ahead.
yes, and yeah, one perspective of a book. And I think that's another thing that needs to happen is when we're talking about solutions and things like that, is even though that we have all this information out here, like we have pretty much the encyclopedias of encyclopedias right here at our right here in our hands, right? It actually has made us worse, because we can Google search something and thinking that, oh, this is it because Google said so. But who says Google, but who anoints that this Google search, or this Google AdSense search that they put in front of your face, is actually accurate information? You know, so so therefore, it actually makes it even worse when it comes down to, like, hey, let's talk, let's try to move together as a unit, and let's try to turn this thing around. You
I, I
know,
I might do a Odyssey channel just so we can talk about that, because there's something I want to share, but I can't share it on YouTube. It will get blocked and not just, well, I'm not monetized yet, but the information will get blocked, and I want to be able to share this information. And it was something that you and we talked about in regards to Aporia. And
mm,
it's something and I'm trying to figure out the right platform in order to put where to put it at, because the moment
Patreon.
I that's not a bad idea, because even if I do a Patreon, I can do it through Odyssey, because it cannot be on YouTube. It cannot live on YouTube. Patreon might kick it off, but I know Odyssey, I can get it on Odyssey, so I'm probably gonna do it there. Let me. Oh, I'm getting backed up. I just looked down. Give me one second here, and let me get through this. Psychological warfare through the media. The world came from Gospel News. Uh,
Facts.
Abijah Hernandez. Gospel News would just, of course not. Why would you? I say, why would you let your investment go free. I say the investment being us. I say the word is indoctrination. I agree. Has a big. I'm going to come back to that
Facts.
slave Bible. Give me because that's let's
No,
say
no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Hit on it real quick. I want to hit it.
so we don't need to read, and then the last one is the problem is processing the information you receive. Okay, so going towards what Gospel News said, because there's a lot of what he's saying that I agree with, from the perspective of, so back in the day, like you're talking about what they would give the slaves, and if you ever get a chance to look at it, I don't know if you maybe you have, but the slave Bible, it's in a very abridged portion of the Bible. And the Bible is an abridged portion of what the documents were before then. That's one point I'm gonna come back to. I just want to make sure. So what the slaves were taught was, like you said, one, you're not allowed to read. And if you are allowed to read, you can only read this extremely abridged. We're going to give you the highlights that we feel support our position of slavery. They're still doing that today. And I really want to say what I want to talk about on Odyssey. I gotta wait. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create an Odyssey account, drop the link on, and let you guys know the date on when it is I'm going to talk about this stuff for Aporia. I'm going to do a little quick clip on it, and then I'll drop the link on that at another point. But because this particular tactic in the playbook is still being used today on, we're only going to give you abridged information. Not only are we going to give you abridged information, we're going to make sure that you don't want to read the information yourself. You're going to look at that information. You're going to say, hey, somebody else tell me about this information and what it is I need to believe. So that when you what it is that's actually in the book versus what it is you're being taught that's in the book, two entirely different things. And then it's like from almost everything that you're being taught from it is different than what's actually in it. And most people are being told, why do you need to read it? As if it's the word of God and he gave it to you to read, why wouldn't you read it? As a matter of fact, once you get into it and you look at what the Israelites in the past or whatever, what they did in the book, they were all incited to read it themselves, to get the law themselves. They were, if you were a king, you were required to write it out yourself. But today we don't go through any of it. We let somebody else tell us, who's our preacher, pastor, whoever, bishop, whatever the title, pope, whoever, let them tell you what it says and what you need to believe, as opposed to looking at it and go like, that goes completely counter to what you just stated. There is nothing
facts,
about this.
facts,
How you're
facts.
telling me this stuff. And so a lot of times you look at this stuff and it is, when you look at the book, what you're being taught and what's actually coming out of it, two entirely different things. And this Aporia thing that I want to talk about, and obviously, it's a topic that YouTube does not want on here, that has to do with the current situation that we're currently in. That same playbook is being ran, and there's a lot of evidence behind that. Let's see. Yes, YouTube censors you. It very much does. Mouth psychology is the problem of religious people.
Speak on that. Church. Gospel News.
Yeah, as I saw when you're looking at it, is what are you doing towards that aspect? And I love the point that Abijah, one of the things he stated was, why would you let your investment go free? So we as Black people are, from the time that this country started, when they stole the land from the indigenous people that were here, to the point where it's like the whole economy and the country is built on the backs of slaves and indentured servants the entire time through, that everything that's built is based off of that. And now you're looking at the system, we're saying, oh, it doesn't function that way anymore, until you recognize that it actually does, and it actually is. And I've talked about it on previous, and we can probably revisit it another day on that subject of how that still is, from the 13th Amendment all the way down till today, on how the laws are constructed and interpreted in order to make that so that still is the de facto portion. And
something just hit me. All right. When we talk about rebranding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous people here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been through 5 different rebrandings, right? First we were the Indian, right? Mm-hmm. Then we became coloreds, right? We got Afro-American, Black, African American. We only been African American for what, ever since 1988. So over what, 24 years we only been African American. I think another thing that we need to do is we probably just need to go up under rebranding, because we didn't name ourselves African American and we didn't name ourselves Black. You know. Oh yeah, matter of fact, another one was Negro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, on my birth certificate it says Negroid on my birth certificate. So um, I think we need to go up under a rebranding again, something that we actually name ourselves, not, hey Jesse, say this, you know, right?
I
So
but
I think that's in the name, you know. And matter of fact, I think a lot comes in the name. Like if you name your child Dirt or whatever, okay, I think that's gonna fall around your child. But hey, if you name your child with love, you know, that will follow the child, you know.
I definitely agree with that. But as at a rebranding, I guess at this point, what I'm looking at is I think it's important. I just don't know where is it urgent. We talk about this thing on urgency versus importance, and you can have something that's urgent, you can have something that's important, and you can have something that's both urgent and important. And for the rebranding for the name aspect of it, I think it's very important. I don't know about the urgency of it. If it's an urgent, important task that I'm looking at, because I think it's extremely important because it's something that, like you said, we've been branded so many different things, and I don't want
And
to. Well, this
and
I guess
and now Black is sticking, but people Black. But whenever you look at anything in history, okay, what has anything good has been deemed Black?
yeah, I get what you're coming from. I'm not
You know.
pushing back on that. There's a rebranding needs to happen. I'm looking at how do we rebrand in the community as far as what we do in our actions, and then the words or the titles. And that's kind of where I was going with this one. Is like I don't want to get my eyes off the prize, off the these are the goals I'm trying to get to as far as how we're treated and where we're at. The rebranding as far as the name, I'm kind of like how they did with the what's that, the football team, the has they
Washington
yeah,
football team,
yeah,
now the Commanders.
now they're Commanders. But they went through what a few seasons as just the Washington football team, and I'm fine with going through a few seasons as whatever, as the Washington football team until you get to the ultimate name, whatever that is later. I want to make sure that we get down to at least this is me personally. And again, this not being a monolith, but at the same time, I would like for us to get to what do we do about how do we come together as a people, whatever the title. If we feel that that's important up front as a title, that's great. I would love reparations to be the upfront thing as the title, as what we're focusing on, and not just reparations, but coming together and how do we educate ourselves as a people would be my, I guess, the two things that I would like to focus. But I'm not against the name. Definitely not against rebranding as far as name as well. It says, why are
Yeah.
we not advancing? I don't know. Gospel news. I can tell you there's a
Oh,
multiple.
that's by design. That's by design.
Yeah, but how to fix that would be where I want to get to. But who are you? LOL. Okay. And then the last one is meant we. Who are we? Okay. LOL. Okay, got it. So I don't the naming of who we are. I'm okay with whatever that name is comes out of it. I'm less concerned. Personally, I'm less concerned with the name. I'm more concerned with us being together as a people, coming together, united, fixing our family issues so we have a strong family core, and making sure that I guess now I sound like a politician with an agenda. Fixing our
Yeah.
strong family core, making sure that we could come together and get our reparations, and making sure that we, as I guess I sound like a politician now, but
Yeah. And
I agree with the name, but I would like to. Well, let me shut up. Yes, is where I'm gonna leave that
oh
at.
no, oh no. It's all good. And another thing is, um, the thing that Tariq Nasheed is trying to do is trying to separate, the immigrants, from the mainlanders, which is us, trying to cause friction between us, and one thing I always said is the Black immigrant privilege. And I think that's where they actually get frustrated with us about, is because they actually have the Black immigrant privilege,
Mm-hmm.
because most of them come from countries where they see that their president is black. They see, or look just like them. They can go. They can go name 5 lawyers, 5 judges. They can go shake their hands. All businessmen, right? From all tribes. Hey, they can actually go, like, so when they think of somebody powerful and look like them, all you have to do is just look around, and after that you can go get 5 bankers, 5 lawyers, and 5 everything, 5 or 10, 20 of everything, right? And they'll look just like them. you know it's just when we come over here, and which I understand that they get very frustrated with. It's like, hey, you have all this opportunity, but they don't have, but they haven't felt the 400 or 500 years of indoctrination, passed on, passed on, passed on. They don't understand that, hey, whenever uh as people of color, any person of color, hey, whenever you leave your house, you're not guaranteed to come back. When you get stopped by a cop, okay, there is there is a possibility that it's going to go left. A good possibility it's probably going to go left. Instead of worrying about, hey, am I going to get a ticket or not? And I think that we need to more bridge that gap, um, and understand each other. It's like, hey, these are our experiences here, because as soon as you move into a culture that's different from yours, you come in subservient culture, and then of course 1 generation, 2 generation away, you're not going to hold those same cultural values as the first generation, the first generation that's came over. And that's the reason why, because if you go into little China or little Italy, or little Mexico, in every city or whatever, they're not going to have the same cultural impact as, hey, if you actually go over to that same country, because it's been more Americanized. You know,
And you said a lot in that statement, because for me, I'm looking at it. There's three things, and when you were talking about it, that I was considering. One deals with Gospel News comment about commonality, coming together. Two, I'm thinking about the situation right now over in the Ukraine and how they're treating Africans there. Three, I'm thinking about the statements that you're talking about right now as far as our commonality here in the States and where the disconnect comes in at, because there's a lot that you could talk about why there's that disconnect. And four, the inability for us to right now to talk about these issues without becoming offended, right? Because the reality is, as a individuals here who are descendants of slaves, right, are different from individuals that come over on planes that are not that are not descendants of slaves. Doesn't mean that we don't have commonality with the people from the continent, in regards to Gospel News statement down there. It's that we start to look at the commonality, and we look at the differences, and we start thinking that differences are evil, and we're not able to talk about these hard subjects that we need to talk about, like what you just pointed out, Westradamus, on the fact that a lot of us, or when they come over, they're able to, as a unlike individuals here, if we have problems, like if you are an Asian person and you're having issues, and you've had the Chinese Exclusion Act and all these other things that America in their hypocrisy and racism has done over the years, you can always fall back towards your motherland, or you can get help from the motherland back over here, wherever your motherland is, China, Japan, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, whatever, right? You can always get the help from those people. If you are a person from the continent where there's 52 countries over there of black people and they all look like you can always get help from the continent once, if they start abridging rights or whatever else, the whole go back to Africa that they always like, you have support back from Africa. Those of us here being able to talk to somebody and say, hey, that's not always the same thing for us, where we don't have that support back. That becomes an issue. Or and not be and being able to say it like, okay, well, we support you as brothers and sisters as far as specifically what's going on in the Ukraine right now, but it doesn't mean that we're all, that it's all the same, or that we are all the same. And here's some of the differences, blah 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 blah, and being able to talk about some of the differences without it becoming an issue. I really, I don't know how we get to the point where we can talk about it and get some commonality and understand where it is, and have those tough discussions to say, hey, here's what the commonality is. There are some things that we're looking at specifically for people here that were descendants of slaves. That does not include people from the motherland, the continent, or whatever, however you want to phrase that. And it's one of the reasons why you don't have the United States of Africa. That's another subject I was talking about the other day. But
Mm. Don't hurt them. You're not all this stuff out for free. Get out this game out for free.
I say there's 52 countries over there. Why is there? There's a reason why, but but why?
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
That the LOL Africans have one of the most richest countries, but are poor, and they have an opinion of us here in America. There's a definitive reason. So you touched on 1, 2, 3 things in that one statement there, Gospel News, and there's 3 specific. There's 3 reasons why, or I shouldn't even say 3 reasons, but 3 different things that you talked about. That I would break it out into 3 different things.
Hey, hold that on to another show, because
Actually, right. It's 5 minutes till we've been on for an hour and a half. So let's see. So I guess you're right. Let's shut this down today. Let's see. White people showed you their true face. I agree. But let me leave it at this then. I thank you very much for reminding me here, Westradamus. But if you like what we're doing here, please support. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, and please share this around. If you like what we're doing, share it. Help us get some eyeballs on what it is that we're talking about, what we're dealing with here. If you want to buy us coffee, down there in the description down below, or in the I shouldn't say description, the little banner that's scrolling down below, you can definitely buy us coffee down there. And by all means, I know I haven't told you before, I love you, care for you deeply, hope that you're killing it today, and may you always have peace in your life. Did you want to take us out with anything there, Westradamus?
Man, y'all just hey, I love y'all too. All love. I know that a new moon happened yesterday, so it's a new season for you. And no matter what, keep on pushing, and the cream will always rise to the top.
Outstanding. And with that being said, we are